Hello everyone, Cornkid here. Putting together a quick video for new players who've never played the game before. Some advice, so hopefully you don't get too frustrated. Dark Souls is a great game. I'm a huge fanboy, but it can be frustrating when you're new to the game because there's a definite learning curve. It's as difficult as everybody says when you're new to playing the game, and there's some things that you can do to make it less so. It's never cheap. And this is a common thing that you see in reviews. It's never cheap. Every time you die for a reason. And, it means that usually, you did something or didn't do something. But when you're new, it's hard because the game isn't easy. And so it can be really frustrating in the early game if you don't sort of have an idea what to do. So I'm starting a new character just briefly to show a couple things that you can do to make your life a little better in the early going. It doesn't really matter, what class you start with. It really doesn't matter because the leveling up system is so configurable. That if you start off with a knight, you can become a sorcerer or pyromancer later, that sort of thing. It doesn't matter. So the only real thing that could possibly make a difference when you're early game or new is if you pick the thief. You start off with an item called the master key, or if you pick a different class, you can choose the master key as a gift. That's basically it. But you basically in a perfect world, your character will be able to fight at range, either via using bows or magic of some type, and then you also want to be able to fight a melee distance, again with swords or certain pyromancies and things of that nature. I'm going to start with the sorcerer. It's my favorite sort of build to start with because I think it's easier to fight at range early on in the game. But again, you can get stuff pretty early to be a melee character as well, so you can play as both. Again, with the gift, if you pick black fire bombs, it will make the first boss that you encounter in the sort of tutorial area easier, but it's not really a requirement, and so I'm just going to pick the master key. Any of the things are okay to pick. It's not wrong to pick them, but the master key will make the game easier in a way, because you can open up areas you couldn't normally open up early on. I actually don't suggest picking the master key for new characters, for people new to the game, because there's a definite sort of kind of intended progression in a way, with sort of how the difficulty of the enemies are. And if you pick the master key, you can actually get to areas with higher difficulty enemies a little bit earlier. Now, as you get better at the game, I've played it a lot, and I'm really good at PvE. I'm not good at PvP, but I'm good at PvE. And as you get better with it, that's how you open up areas to get items earlier than you would normally get them if you didn't have it. So I'm just going to pick the old witch ring, or actually, no, I'll pick the black firebomb to kind of demonstrate the stuff I'm talking about with the first boss. Now, the main thing, again, in this game is you have to be careful with how you do stuff. Oh, I just hate that way it looks, so we're gonna go curly and then color, who cares. And then I picked a sorcerer, I picked black fire bombs, and you can see the stats over there on the left. But the main thing is, once you've got your character, oh, I didn't pick a physique. Okay, there we go. So once you got a character, the thing that you want to practice, so you can shield tank in this game. You also need to be good at timing your dodges, because this is a really big thing. You get what are called invincibility frames when you're dodging. So for part of the dodge, you actually be invincible. So that's the key. Now, I also recommend in the early part of the game, read the messages on the ground. That are these things. It's actually kind of good to read all the messages, but the ones that are left by the developers are meant to help you learn the controls and things. And then you go. Now, when you're playing early on in the game, again, this is the tutorial level, and they don't start you off with much. Even though I'm a sorcerer and I have a sorcery, I can't use it, because to use sorcery, you need to have a catalyst, which is kind of like the sorcery staff, basically. Goes for miracles, you need to have a talisman, and for pyromancy, you need the pyromancy flame to be able to cast those. Now, bonfire super important. They're kind of like the save points in a way. And I say save point, the game continuously saves. So like if you quit out like this right now, I will literally start in the same spot. And so the game's continuously saving. Anytime you see that flame in the upper right hand corner there, that's the game saving. Now, again, they don't start you off with much. So you get a weapon if you beat this boss without, basically getting your actual set. Because later on in the tutorial, you will be able to get the set. Now, as I said, dodging is super important in this game. You need to, that's one thing that you can do is practice dodging, okay? So, like this guy here, again, he's big, and all I've got's a little knife. Dodge. See? If you don't dodge, you will play baseball with your face. See? No damage taken. I took it there because I didn't dodge early enough. That was my bad. That wasn't the game. That was me just screwing up. See? So, dodging, really important. And like I said, in the early game, you know, you can get black firebombs. See, they do a shit ton of damage to them. And so the whole game, even though it's hard, is all about looking at attack patterns. And so you watch his attack patterns and then you just dodge. And that's a theme throughout this whole game. But again, early part of the game, you know, we skip out a bit. Oh, fuck. Went the wrong way. Oh, I'm gonna get hit. Oh, that was a good dodge. And so it's actually, oh, see, turn my back. See, once you get through here, early part, the gate closes and you're good. But again, dodging, super important. Resting at bonfires. Also, what that does is it will replenish your healing pots once you have them, called Estus flasks. Also will, oh, I didn't rest the bonfire, I just lit it. And it'll also heal you, like you just saw there. So again, that's sort of some early game stuff. Now, again, in the tutorial here, see, I didn't move. I was smart. But it's like, arrow, dodge. See, it went right through me. Dodge, invincibility frame. Then here, you pick up your first couple of items which are important. Your shield. Once you get it, you want to equip it, obviously. And then you're going to get a weapon later on too, which is this item on the ground here. And for the sorcerer, you get a dagger. Now, with your weapons, basically you have to look at what are the stats you need to use it, and what stats when you level them up will make it better, okay? So to do that, you pick on the item, and then you want to toggle the display. So it tells you the left side there, the attack, tells you basically what your attack stats are. So the physical, 56, then there's a +4. So on the below the word critical, there's a param bonus, and that tells you which stats. If you, oh, he came out of the. What the hell is he? Shooting me again with a bow, jerk. We're gonna take care of you. You see, I'm not doing a whole lot of damage. And the green bar under the health is your stamina bar. That's stamina management is super huge in this game, because if you run out of stamina, that's bad. That's the pathway to death, because you hold your shield up, someone will break your stamina, and then they can get free hits on you, and that's bad, which is basically an instant path to death. Anyway, so you pull up your item, you can see what you need to use it. So the required param is the stats you need to use it, and it puts your stats on the right there, as you see. And so if you don't know what the stats are, let's see, isn't there a way to like look up for help? Yeah, so if you hit the one of the menu buttons, you can. It's the it's the one right next to the left thumbstick. It's below the Xbox button. I can't remember what it's called. It's got the two little monitor icons on it. But you do that, and then you can actually get a menu here that, you know, explains stuff. And so again, param bonus is the degree by which your attack is boosted by your stats. Required param is the minimum values you need to use the weapon effectively. What that means is, if you don't have the stats to use a weapon, you can still equip it, but you may not be able to use it. When you equip a weapon like that, you'll see on the damage stats, there'll be a big minus number to the base stat. So it might say like physical 56 minus 40. So in other words, you're only going to do 16 damage with it. And then again, the E and the B for the param bonus down here, it means like, so the little buff arm is strength, the hand is dexterity, then the up and down little looks like a, I don't know, matchstick, that's your intelligence, and then the other one that looks like the little starburst is faith. So if you look at my stats, against physical 56 plus 4, I'm getting a plus 4 bonus because my dexterity is 11, which is, you know, that's a stat where you get a B scaling. So it's basically a scale that starts from, like, the dash means no bonus, and then it's E, D, C, B, A, and then S is the best rating. And so it gets this weapon, the dagger, gets decent scaling with dex, but it's a dagger, so it doesn't get a lot of base damage. The other thing it does get is it gets a bonus to the critical. So 131 is your critical, and if it's 100 is sort of the normal, and so this weapon actually gets a bonus to critical attacks. So again, now I have, like, you know, a weapon and a shield, but I'm a sorcerer and I don't have a catalyst yet. Well, the game gives you everything you need in the tutorial level, so you want to make sure that you go through the entire tutorial level and pick up all the things that you can. Now, this game is really well designed in the levels, and you can't always pick everything up right away. Another thing that's important, you cannot progress until you get that ball to roll down, because you need to talk to this guy in here who gives you the Estus Flask, which is your healing thing, and the key to get through the next door. So yes, we want to... So there's your Estus Flask, great. And there's the key to get to the next part of the area. And even if you beat that boss, you still have to come talk to him, because this guy will give you the key that you get for beating the boss. So... Now, again, I said that the game is really well designed. There's actually stuff in here. So I just backstabbed him for bonus damage. You couldn't see it, sorry. But, so like the dagger weapon, you don't want to use it like the sword. You really are looking more to backstab people with it. That's the way to go. Now, there are places in this level you can't get to at first. So I say pick up all the items. There's an item up there. You cannot get it right now because the stairs are broken. You know, you have to go get another item to open a door, and you cannot get it on this first time through. So don't stress if you can't get it, because... did I open the door down here? I can't remember. Yes, I did. Alright. So now, again, I'm a sorcerer who doesn't have sorcery. Now I got the key from talking to that guy, opens this up, and you see it's a two-handing weapon. See, the game's tutorial tells you, like the messages, how to do things. And they're all techniques you're going to want to use at some point. And then that's also important too. Resing of bonfires revives enemies. So, and there's your catalyst. You want to make sure you equip it, and you've already got your spell attuned. So see, it was kind of grayed out, and then when I picked the catalyst, it's not grayed out anymore. So great. Now the other thing with shields and the stats for shields is, and I'll show you this after I kill these guys, is stability on the shield is important too. Oh, shit. Oh, I'm always not smart. I let them box me in. So, and then plunging attacks important when you can do them. But anyway, so with the shield stats, and there's actually a stat where all of the weapons, because shields are considered weapons in this game, but the shield stat on the right, you see there's a stability, And so it tells you how much damage is reduced and the type of damage. So physical, 80%. That means the shield doesn't block all physical damage. So if someone swings a sword at you and you block with this shield, you will take some health damage. Now, it's decreased by 80%, but you will still take some damage. Then again, if there's attacks, magic, fire, lightning, again, you'll take damage too, even if you block. So you need to factor that into account. This is again why dodging is important, because it's better to not get hit than to take a hit that you take damage from. Then with stability, that's another thing. So when you block with the shield or any weapon, the stability is basically how much, like your stamina bar get decreased when you block a hit. And the lower the stability number is, the more stamina will be depleted when you block with the shield. And so again, if you're trying to shield tank and your stamina is getting depleted and enemies keep swinging and your stamina goes all the way to 0, you will be guard broken and open for hits. So you have to take that into account too. Again, that's another reason why dodging, in my opinion, is better than trying to tank. Now, there are some shields you can get in the game that have really high stability, especially after you level them up. But again, everything in this game is fairly balanced. So sort of the best overall tanking shield in terms of just pure stats is a leveled up Hovel shield, because it's 100% physical block, and I think it's either 80 or 90s for all the other damage reduction. And leveled up, I think the stability is in the 80s. There's another shield called the Eagle Shield that's also really good, which is actually my favorite shield in the game. That gives you, it's 95% physical damage reduction, but leveled up the stability I think is 85. So you could basically tank almost all day long, and other people, like at least the NPCs, will often just kind of run out of stamina. And it's a great shield, so sometimes they don't even, they get hit once and they're sort of stunned for a moment. Okay, so anyway, now on to this boss here. So again, remember, plunging attacks. You start off the fight above them. So what you can do is, when I'm playing as a sorcerer, which is a range character, I start off with a plunging attack and then switch to my catalyst and try to stay behind. Watch his attack, dodge his attacks, and then there's a window after he's attacked where you have time to cast the spell. Or if you have the fire bombs like I do, you can just throw the fire bombs at him. But since I'm doing this, see, he's just sitting there watching. So like, hey, fine, I will just shove my knife in your face. And look at that. He's lost a ton of health. And then again, target lock him. Oh, see, I dodged poorly there. That was my bad. I fucked up the dodge. See, I'm trying to bait his attack. Now I'm going to heal here. So again, he doesn't do a ton of damage. Okay, that's me again screwing up the dodge. 3 times in a row I screwed it up. Advice video by a guy who can't do what he's telling you to do. It's like being back in high school. See, that time I dodged correctly, and now I got a spell. And this guy... Oh. See, now... Sometimes he chains attacks, so you want to just be careful. Watch his attack and just dodge. See? No damage. Window, hit. And again, with a melee character, you have to stay close to him, so you want to dodge and then get hits in. But I think Sorcerer is one of the easiest characters to do at the start, because you can stay back and do that. And yeah, so that's it. So really, since there's a bonfire close, if you wanted to actually practice dodging, you could just go into this fight. Because literally you can start off with, you know, bonfire, come in and fight him. It's better to go above, because you can take the drop stab on him from the start. But, you know, literally it's easy to practice dodging. You can practice dodging on the other enemies here. And that's it. And then once you get to Firelink, which is the next area, you progress on in the game. Now, again, this game doesn't require you to go in any direction other than it has a couple of areas blocked off that are after you beat some of the bosses. But if you're not gonna, you know, read anything online, it's totally cool. That's actually how I played the game the first time, and I think that's a good way to play. Oh, the other thing is you level up at the bonfires. So when you rest at a bonfire, you level up here. It's also where you can switch your magic spells by attuning them. Now, there's basically 3 ways that you can go at this point from Firelink. And this is the biggest thing I was frustrated with when I was new, is there's not direction on where to go, which is great when you're later and you want to build certain characters or build a certain way, but it's terrible when you don't have a lot of direction. So 1, you can go this way up the path. And that's actually the easiest way. The enemies are the easiest there. 2, you can come over here and go this way. Down the path straight ahead there. That's harder. Doable, but harder. You see there's actually playthrough videos of people who go there intentionally to go and get a weapon from over there. That's kind of cool to have. And this is the 3rd way. So you can come down here, and there's an elevator that you can go down after you go. So there's someone in here that you can talk to, talk in quotes, and then you can come down here, and there's an elevator here you can ride down to another area. And this actually is the way I would least suggest going when you're new. And in fact, I did this because I didn't know, and this is the first way that I found to go anywhere. And the problem with this area when you're new is the enemies are tough, and you need an item to even be able to fight them. Like you get into fights with them, but they can hit you and you can't hit them unless you have a specific status effect applied to you. But it's like basically you go along those bridges there that are in the background, and you go to that area over there. So again, I would suggest going up that path to start, and that's it. So hopefully this video was helpful getting newer players on the way to Dark Souls love, because this game is great. I think that most people who play it fall in love with it once they get past the initial learning curve. And then when you go into this first area that I suggested doing, there's a merchant not too far into the level where you can buy a better shield if you wanted to shield tank. Or not shield tank, but if you want a 100% physical blocking shield. Because again, I think that's also something that helps early characters, is having a 100% physical blocking shield. And then the other recommendation I can give is when you level up, what to level up. Don't level up things equally. You're trying to build a character a certain way. This is a frustration I had when I started when I was new. I leveled up stats kind of across the board, and really like for a sorcerer, the important stats are going to be intelligence, because that makes it stronger and also makes you able to use stronger spells, and attunement lets you get more slots for attuning magic, so you can use more magic. Now the other thing though is, like, right now I can't use a lot of regular swords, and so what I would do is when I got a weapon that I wanted to use, I would level up the stats that I needed to the bare minimum to be able to use the weapon effectively, i.e. without the red X. And then I would level up the equipment directly, because there's ways to level up the equipment later in the game. Not much later, but later. And leveling up the equipment is a better way to go than to pouring a bunch of stats into something like strength when you're trying to be a sorcerer. And that's pretty much it. Okay. Like the video, subscribe. Cornkid out.